The arrival. The Galactic Council had seen many armies before, but none like the one that came from Earth. The Empire had expected generals, flags, and speeches of glory. Instead, what they got was silence, cold and heavy like the space between stars. The first human ship entered the orbit of Virex Prime, the Empire's military hub. It was black and angular, with no insignia, no color, no life. The alien observers called it a coffin of metal, because even its engines sounded like a dying breath. Every other species sent armies that sang victory songs, but the humans sent machines that hummed like predators before a hunt. From the bridge of the station, High Commander Vrax watched the ship dock. His 4 golden eyes narrowed. His silver armor gleamed under the blue light. "Are they late?" he asked, his tone filled with arrogance. "Or are these humans always this dramatic?" His aide, a nervous Yalari officer, shifted uneasily. "Commander, reports say Earth has a different kind of military." "Different?" Vrax snorted. "They are primitives from a death world. They cannot even control their own planet. What could they possibly teach the Empire?" The docking bay doors opened with a metallic groan, and smoke rolled out like a living thing. A formation of soldiers stepped out in perfect unison. Each one wore black combat armor, their visors reflecting the station's cold light. No banners, no ranks, no smiles. They walked like machines with hearts still beating inside. The first alien to approach them was a diplomat. He extended his clawed hand and said, "Welcome, representatives of Earth." "We are honored." The lead human ignored him. The man's voice, when he finally spoke, was quiet, almost calm. "Where's the battlefield?" The alien froze. "Pardon?" "The battlefield," the human repeated, his tone empty. "We were told there's a war," the diplomat tried to explain. Yes, but first there will be introductions. The council would like." The human's visor turned slightly, a reflection of burning stars on his faceplate. "We don't do introductions," he said, then walked past, followed by the rest of the unit. The Empire's soldiers who watched from the catwalks whispered among themselves. "They don't look like soldiers," one muttered. "They look wrong." Vrax frowned as he observed from above. Their movements were too perfect, not like trained fighters, but like something drilled beyond human limits. Each step fell in rhythm with the others, a soundless, invisible beat. The silence was worse than a scream. Later, in the command chamber, Vrax reviewed the file sent from Earth Command. It was short, too short. It had only a few lines. Project Revenant Unit, Earth's Elite Combat Division. Deployment authorized under Galactic Treaty 97. Caution, psychological reconditioning incomplete. Vrax leaned back, his mandibles twitching. "Reconditioning?" he murmured. "What does that mean?" The aide swallowed hard. "Rumor says these soldiers are volunteers, Commander. They say they were taken from prisons and research facilities, trained for war until nothing human remained." Vrax laughed. "Fairy tales, nothing more." But even as he said it, his laugh sounded forced. Meanwhile, in the human quarters, the Revenant soldiers sat in silence. One cleaned his rifle until the metal shone like glass. Another stared at the wall, his lips moving as if whispering to ghosts. The one who had spoken earlier, Captain Mason Hale, finally stood. His voice broke the stillness. Orders came in. "We move at dawn," one of the soldiers, a woman with scars running down her neck, asked. "Are we allowed to sleep?" Hale looked at her through his visor. "Sleep if you can. Outside." "Alien technicians watch them from observation glass," one whispered. "They don't talk. They don't eat. They don't rest. What are they?" His partner replied softly. "Maybe that's the point." When dawn came, the Empire's fleet assembled for deployment to the Dravari front. Thousands of alien warships formed ranks in orbit, shining with energy fields and banners. Then, the human vessel drifted forward, silent, unmarked, predatory. Vrax's aide turned to him. "Commander, they are not following standard formation." "Let them," Vrax said, his voice sharp. "If they die first, that will remind Earth of their place." But deep down, he could not stop watching them. The way their ship moved, not fast, not slow but deliberate, was unnerving, like a predator studying prey before the strike. As the fleet warped toward the Dravari sector, the alien commanders opened communication with the human captain. "Captain Hale, report your combat strategy." Hale's voice came through the comm, steady and cold. "Strategy is simple," he said. "We go in first, we clean up. You follow." The line went silent, then static. Laughter broke out among the alien officers. "They go in first? There'll be ash before we arrive." But Vrax didn't laugh. He replayed Hale's voice again and again. There was no emotion in it, not pride, not arrogance, only certainty. Hours later, the fleet reached the Dravari front. Thousands of enemy bioships filled the void like a swarm of nightmares. The Empire readied its cannons, but before they could give the order, the human ship vanished from radar. Where are they? Frax demanded. No one could answer. Then, the sensors flashed red, multiple explosions across the Dravari fleet, ships burning one after another. The black vessel appeared behind enemy lines, moving like a ghost. The Empire's communication channels flooded with shocked voices. They're tearing through the swarm. One ship, just one ship. When the smoke cleared, the Dravari flagship drifted dead. The humans didn't celebrate, didn't cheer, didn't even send a report. They simply returned to formation, silent and cold. Frax stared at the screen, his voice barely a whisper. They're not soldiers, he said. They're monsters in uniform. The Empire's doubt. When the humans returned from their first battle, no one spoke. The corridors of Virex Prime felt colder that day. The alien engineers avoided looking at them. The smell of ozone and scorched metal clung to their armor. Yet their faces showed no pride, no fear, just emptiness. Commander Vrax stood at the balcony of the war hall, staring down as the humans marched past. Their boots struck the metal floor with a rhythm that sounded like war drums. He had commanded 100 campaigns, seen 1,000 battles, but he had never seen soldiers walk like that, quiet, steady, hollow. His aide trembled. Commander, the reports are confirmed. The human vessel destroyed the entire Dravari swarm in under 7 minutes. Frax's mandibles clicked in disbelief. Impossible, he said. Not even our dreadnoughts can do that. The aide handed him a datapad, shaky claws tapping the screen. The recordings are here. Commander. Frax watched the footage. The black human vessel didn't fire heavy cannons or coordinate formations. It simply disappeared from sensors, reappeared behind enemy lines, and tore through the Dravari ships like a knife through flesh. No communication, no hesitation, every move perfect. He zoomed in on one moment, the human boarding unit storming the enemy flagship. They didn't use translators, didn't issue warnings. They moved through the corridors, cutting down everything that moved. The Dravari commander, a beast with claws the size of swords, begged for surrender. The human captain shot him without blinking. Frax turned the screen off. Monsters, he whispered. Meanwhile, inside the human quarters, Captain Mason Hale stood before his team. His face was pale under the harsh light. Command wants a debrief, he said flatly. One soldier scoffed. What's there to debrief? We killed everything. Hale's gaze flickered toward him. They want details. Another soldier, the scarred woman, tilted her head. Are they afraid of us, sir? Hale paused before answering. They should be. The Empire gathered in the council chamber. Holograms of 12 alien leaders hovered above the round table. Commander Vrax stood at the center. His voice was calm but sharp. I have reviewed their combat data. These humans are not soldiers. They are engineered, the council members murmured. The Virexian ambassador, tall and robed in gold, asked, Engineered how? Frax tapped the table, bringing up the Earth file again. They call it Project Revenant, he said. Each of these humans has undergone genetic and psychological conditioning beyond reason. Their neural inhibitors suppress empathy and pain. They feel no hesitation, no fear. They fight until death or until nothing remains to fight, a voice hissed from one of the holograms. So they are machines? No, Frax said, his tone darkening. Machines can be reasoned with. A silence filled the chamber, thick and uneasy. One of the older counselors finally said, Commander, if they are that dangerous, why would Earth send them here? Frax looked up, his eyes glowing faintly. Because Earth doesn't send soldiers to win wars, he said slowly. It sends monsters to end them. The statement echoed across the chamber. Later that night, Frax walked alone through the hangar. He saw a group of human soldiers cleaning their weapons. One of them, a young man with cold blue eyes, looked up and met his gaze. There was no recognition, no respect, only stillness. Vrax's claws tightened on his belt. He turned away, but the soldier spoke, his voice low. You think we scare you now, he said. Wait until we're told to stop holding back. Vrax froze, his throat clicking. He wanted to reply, but the words didn't come. He left the hangar without another glance. In the command center above, a message blinked on his console. New mission order, joint operation with Revenant Unit. Objective, neutralize Dravari homeworld. Vrax read it twice. They plan to send them to the homeworld? He whispered. That's madness. His aide hesitated. Commander, perhaps that's why Earth sent them. For the first time in his long life, Vrax didn't know what to say. He had seen what these humans could do when ordered to fight. But he feared something worse. What they would do when ordered to end a species. Somewhere deep inside the human quarters, Captain Hale sat alone, staring at his reflection in his helmet visor. His voice was barely a whisper. Monsters in uniform, he said. That's what they'll call us again. The woman across the room looked up. Do you care? Hale shook his head slowly. No, he said. As long as the job gets done. Outside, the stars above Virex Prime shimmered quietly. Unaware of what was coming, the Empire had expected generals. But what they got instead were ghosts that bled, smiled, and killed without a sound. The first battle. The Galactic Empire's high command gathered inside the massive war dome above Virex Prime. Its walls glowed with blue energy as the holographic map displayed the Dravari homeworld. The red markers pulsed like wounds on the screen. Commander Vrax stood tall at the front, his mandibles tight with unease. Beside him stood Captain Mason Hale, silent, helmet under his arm. The alien officers whispered among themselves. Watching the human with barely hidden fear, Vrax cleared his throat. Our mission is to strike at the Dravari core defense line, cut off their fleet and force surrender, he said. The human unit will lead the vanguard. Gasps and murmurs filled the hall. One officer slammed his clawed fist on the table. They lead? Are you insane? We should not let those creatures go first. Vrax's eyes glowed cold. Would you rather go in their place? The hall fell silent. Captain Hale stepped forward. His tone calm but sharp. We don't need speeches, he said. Just give us the coordinates. Vrax handed him a data pad. You'll be outnumbered 5,000 to 1. Hale glanced at it briefly. Good, he said, then turned and walked away. His soldiers followed, silent shadows moving in sync as the human ship, Raven 01, prepared to deploy. Alien technicians watched from the observation bay. The black hull of the ship seemed to absorb light itself. Its engines thrummed softly like a heartbeat before a storm. One of the techs whispered. They don't even use shields, his partner replied. They don't need them. Minutes later, space erupted into chaos. The Dravari swarm spread across the system like a living tide, organic ships pulsing with red energy. The Empire's fleet hesitated, waiting for the signal. Then a single voice cut through the comms. Hale's. Revenant unit moving in. The Raven 01 dove straight into the heart of the swarm. Without formation, without backup, the Dravari flagship immediately fired plasma volleys that could melt moons. The human ship twisted, dipped, and vanished. Not through stealth fields, but sheer maneuver speed. Inside the command dome, the alien officers watched in disbelief. They'll be vaporized, one shouted. But then, thousands of small blips appeared on the tactical display. Human drop pods, each carrying a revenant, falling like meteors into the enemy fleet. The sensors couldn't track them fast enough. Every pod hit its mark, exploding open to release soldiers that began cutting through Dravari ships from the inside out. Impossible, Vrax whispered. They're boarding ships mid-combat. The feed switched to one of the Dravari vessels. Cameras showed humans moving through the corridors. Their movements were silent, mechanical, each motion efficient and brutal. They didn't shout. Didn't communicate, they simply advanced, firing weapons with surgical precision. When a Dravari charged them, the human tore off its limb and used it as a weapon. On the battlefield, Hale's voice came through the static. Target the heart, he ordered. Burn it all. The revenants synchronized without hesitation, detonating explosives in unison across the Dravari fleet. A blinding wave of light engulfed half the battlefield. The shockwave rippled through space, throwing alien ships off course. When the sensors cleared, the Dravari armada was gone. Silent wrecks drifting in the void. The human drop pods reformed around the Raven 01. Every soldier accounted for, not one casualty. Inside the Empire's command center, no one spoke. Vrax stared at the data, his throat dry. They wiped out a full armada in 6 minutes, he said slowly. One of the generals stammered. Commander. They could destroy us just as easily, Vrax didn't answer. His eyes stayed on the human ship returning to formation. The comms crackled again, Hale's voice calm as ever. Objective complete, he said, awaiting next order. The alien council erupted in nervous chatter. Some called it victory. Others called it horror. The Yalari ambassador slammed his claws on the table. This isn't war, it's extermination. Vrax finally spoke. No, he said softly. This is Earth's version of peace. Back aboard the Raven 01, the Revenants sat in silence, their armor still dripping with alien blood. Hale stood near the viewport watching the burning planet below. The scarred woman stepped beside him. They'll call us monsters again, she said quietly. Hale didn't look at her. They're not wrong, he replied. She tilted her head. Do you ever wonder what's left of us? He finally turned, eyes cold and distant. Nothing worth wondering about. In the distance, the Empire's ships moved cautiously, keeping space between themselves and the humans for the first time in centuries. Alien warlords who had never known fear now felt it crawling under their skin. Commander Vrax sent one final report to the Council. It was short, only a single sentence. Earth soldiers do not conquer, they cleanse. As the transmission ended, he whispered to himself. The galaxy expected generals, he said, but Earth sent something far worse. The Empire trembles. Virex Prime had never been silent before, but now even the air seemed to hold its breath. The great capital of the Galactic Empire, once full of pride and noise, stood quiet as soldiers and citizens alike whispered about the humans. Stories spread like wildfire. Some said the Revenants were demons wrapped in flesh. Others claimed they were machines wearing human faces, but all agreed on one thing. Wherever the humans went, nothing survived. Commander Vrax stood before the Council again. The holograms of 12 alien leaders flickered around him. You've seen the reports, he said. The Dravari homeworld is gone, no resistance, no survivors. Only ash. The Kelth ambassador slammed his fist on the table. Gone? You mean conquered? Vrax shook his head. No, he said quietly. Gone. The chamber fell into uneasy silence. One counselor leaned forward, her blue scales shimmering under the light. Do the humans intend to continue this pattern? Vrax exhaled slowly. They intend to end the war. A deep voice rumbled from the shadows. By erasing species? No one answered. Meanwhile, in the barracks of Raven 01, Captain Mason Hale sat in the dark. The ship hummed softly around him. His armor lay beside him, cracked and scarred. His reflection in the metal looked almost alien. The scarred woman, Lieutenant Sarah Kang, entered. Orders came in, she said. They want us to join the next front, the Tarok cluster. Hale didn't look up. Another war zone. Another cleansing, she replied. Her tone held no emotion, but her eyes told a different story. Exhaustion, confusion, maybe even guilt. Hale finally stood, his movements deliberate. And the Empire? He asked. They're afraid, she said. They don't speak it, but you can feel it in the halls. Hale gave a small nod. Good. At that same hour, the Council's private communication channels buzzed with quiet panic. Vrax received a hidden message marked with Earth's seal. It read, Revenant protocol will continue until all hostile entities are neutralized. Do not interfere. Observation only. He stared at the message for a long time. The words do not interfere burned into his mind. The next day, when Hale entered the command chamber, Vrax was waiting, Captain, he said slowly. How long do you plan to keep this up? Hale looked at him, calm and cold. Until the job's done. And when it's done? Vrax pressed. Hale's eyes narrowed slightly. Then we wait for the next one. Vrax's claws clenched. You're creating fear, Captain, he said. Even among your allies. Hale tilted his head. Fear keeps them alive. The word sent a chill through Vrax. He suddenly realized that this man, this human, wasn't being cruel. He was being honest as Raven 01 departed for the Tarok front. Rumors spread that the humans no longer followed orders, that they moved before commands were even given. The Empire tried to monitor them, but every attempt failed. Their comms went dark. Their signatures vanished then in silence, until the reports came in. Whole fleets gone, enemy planets erased. On the fourth day, a message arrived from Hale himself. Short and calm as always, objective complete. Minimal losses, sector secure. The footage that followed was worse than any nightmare. A dozen Tarok worlds burning, black smoke coiling into orbit, cities reduced to glass, no screams, no struggle, just quiet destruction. The Council met again. This time fear was no longer hidden. This must stop. One shouted, They're destroying everything. Another counselor hissed, How do you stop something that doesn't listen? Vrax stood motionless, staring at the empty space on the hologram where Earth's representative should have been. "They're not fighting for peace," he said. "They're fighting for completion." On Raven 01, the Revenant stood on the observation deck, watching the last Turok city burn. Lieutenant Kane whispered, "We were supposed to save lives." Hale didn't reply. His gaze stayed fixed on the dying planet. "We did," he finally said. "We saved the future from them." "But at what cost?" she asked, her voice trembling. Hale turned to her, his expression unreadable. "At every cost, far away." Frax recorded his private log, his voice heavy. "The Empire trembles not because of its enemies," he said, "but because of its allies." He paused, glancing out at the stars. "And if Earth ever decides the Empire is one of those enemies, none of us will live to see another dawn." As his words faded, the stars outside Virex Prime shimmered cold and distant. For the first time in millennia, the great Galactic Empire prayed, not for victory, but for mercy. The monsters in uniform. The war was over, but peace never came. The Galactic Empire had survived, yet the galaxy itself felt broken. Entire systems were gone, erased from the maps. No songs of victory were sung, no medals awarded. Only silence deep and uneasy on Virex Prime. The council gathered for what they called the final inquiry. Commander Vrax stood before them, the faint glow of the holographic chamber casting sharp shadows across his face. The alien leaders stared down at him, their expressions grim. "Commander," said the Kelth Prime Minister, "you were the Empire's liaison to the humans. You saw what they did. We demand answers." Vrax's eyes flickered with exhaustion. "Answers," he said. "You want to understand the humans. Then start with this: they never came to join us. They came to finish what we couldn't." A hologram of the destroyed Tarok cluster appeared above the table. Thousands of ruined worlds spinning slowly in red light. "They cleansed entire civilizations," shouted one counselor. "That's not defense, that's genocide." Vrax's claws tapped the metal surface. His voice low and rough. "You call it genocide," he said. "They call it insurance across the galaxy." The black ships of Earth's Revenant units were returning home. Silent as always, their hulls scorched, their insignia still missing. Every race that watched them pass turned off their scanners, too afraid to even record their routes. The stars themselves seemed to dim when those ships moved. Inside Raven 01, Captain Mason Hale stood alone in the debrief chamber, a single screen flickering before him. The Earth emblem glowed faintly, a blue circle. Fractured and cold, a voice came through the transmission, deep and calm. "Captain Hale, your mission is complete." Hale didn't respond. The voice continued. "Project Revenant has achieved its goal. The Empire is secure, the threats eliminated. Return to Earth for deactivation." The word deactivation hung in the air. Hale finally spoke, his tone flat. "So that's it? We burn the galaxy and then vanish?" "That was always the agreement," said the voice. "You were never meant to last." Hale stared at the dark screen for a long moment, then turned it off. He removed his helmet and placed it on the table. His reflection staring back, eyes hollow, face scarred, he whispered, "Maybe monsters shouldn't live too long anyway." Lieutenant Sarah Kane entered quietly. "Orders?" she asked. Hale nodded. "Earth wants us home." She didn't move. "And what if we don't go?" Hale looked at her, the faintest flicker of something human crossing his face. "Then we become what they fear." Back on Virex Prime, Vrax watched from the command tower as the human ships turned toward the distant stars. His aide stood beside him whispering, "Will they come back?" Vrax's voice was a quiet growl. "If they do, it will not be as allies." A sudden flash appeared on the outer sensors. The Revenant fleet was gone. No jump signature, no trace, just empty space where monsters had once stood. Years passed, and the galaxy tried to forget. The Dravari species became myths. The Tarok worlds were erased from history. Children grew up hearing stories of the silent soldiers, warriors who ended wars but left nightmares behind. But the Empire never forgot the truth. In the Hall of Commanders, a single plaque hung under dim light. It read, "In memory of the day Earth sent not generals but monsters in uniform." Below it, a smaller inscription glowed faintly. "They came from a death world, and they reminded us all one peace is not given. It's enforced." Far away beyond known space, a black ship drifted quietly near the ruins of a forgotten world. Inside, Captain Hale stood beside the viewport. Earth a distant blue dot in the void, Lieutenant Kane approached him. "Do you think they'll remember us?" she asked softly. Hale didn't answer at first. His gaze stayed fixed on that small, glowing planet. Finally, he said, "They'll remember what we did." "Not who we were," she looked at him. "And what were we, sir?" He turned slightly, his voice calm. "We were the last monsters they needed." The ship drifted into shadow, its lights dimming until it became one with the stars. Somewhere deep in that silence, the hum of the engines faded like a dying heartbeat, and with it, the last trace of humanity's most terrifying creation disappeared. Across the galaxy, in every empire, every colony, and every heart that had seen them, one truth remained. When the galaxy expected generals, Earth sent something far worse. Something unforgettable. They sent monsters in uniform, and the stars would never shine the same again.